All right, let's talk about this new Family Guy episode, Season 23, Episode 8. Sometimes I watch these episodes and I think, did Seth MacFarlane even watch TV before he started making this show? Because it feels like he's just grabbing random cultural references out of a hat and hoping something sticks. Like, this whole episode feels like it was written by someone who's only ever heard about high school from an ancient movie soundtrack. We open with that classic, slightly creepy Family Guy theme song, the one that's supposed to be comforting but mostly just makes me wonder what exactly these family values are. Lois is serving up some questionable dinner that sounds like it came straight from a trauma support group. Donated stews from Bonnie after her foot got infected? That's a lot. And then we get Chris talking about his science lab almost exploding, which is fine, but it's immediately overshadowed by a peanut with 3 peanuts inside. Priorities, people. But the real kicker, the moment that sets the tone for this whole bizarre journey, is Chris's book report. He's supposed to be talking about Tom Sawyer, and he pulls out a Rush song. A Rush song. I mean, if you're going to butcher a classic like Tom Sawyer, at least pick a metal band that sounds like they could be about a mischievous kid, not a progressive rock band known for charting geological expeditions. And Peter, of course, is just thrilled about miniature golf, because that's what mature adults do on a Tuesday night. Meanwhile, Joe is out there making connections between Taco Tuesday and Medicare reform, which, sure, Joe, whatever helps you sleep at night. This episode is a wild ride, folks, and honestly, I'm still not entirely sure how we got from a gross book report to time travel, but trust me, the destination is something. And before we dive any deeper, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the chaotic mind of Family Guy, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us keep the lights on and the commentary flowing, so you don't have to decipher these bizarre plots on your own. Because let's be real, who has the time for that? Okay, so this episode, Family Guy Season 23, Episode 8, it starts with this whole idea of Chris being absolutely mortified because his boner popped out during an oral book report. It's classic Family Guy awkwardness dialed up to 11, and you immediately know this is going to go somewhere profoundly uncomfortable and probably nonsensical. The main plot revolves around Chris's humiliation and his subsequent decision to run away, which Brian, in his infinite wisdom, decides can be fixed with a time machine. Yes, a time machine. Because why solve problems with therapy or, adult conversation when you can just mess with the fabric of reality? The side plot, if you can even call it that, is Peter and the guys going for a round of miniature golf on a Tuesday, which ties into some truly bizarre rant from Joe about tacos and politics. It's the signature Family Guy move, taking something mundane and stretching it into an absurdist tangent that barely connects to anything else. The episode is trying to explore themes of embarrassment, the desire to escape consequences, and the absurdity of trying to fix the past. It's not subtle, but then again, Family Guy rarely is. This episode feels like it's trying to be a bit of a commentary on how people deal with shame, but it's buried under so many layers of nonsensical jokes and plot contrivances that it's hard to tell. Is it a commentary on how modern society handles awkwardness? Or is it just an excuse to have Chris Griffin get naked in front of his class? Who knows? Visually, it's Family Guy. The animation is what you expect. The pacing is frantic, jumping from one gag to the next without much breathing room. The stories, the book report and the time travel, feel stitched together rather than organically flowing. The writing, at times, feels sharp, especially with the callbacks and the quick-fire jokes, but then it veers into this territory of just being plain weird for weirdness' sake. It's an episode that's more about the individual gags than the overall narrative cohesion. My verdict? It's an episode. It has its moments, sure, but it's definitely not going to be remembered as a classic. It's a solid, if unremarkable, entry into the Family Guy canon, leaning heavily on its established formula. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what made this episode, for better or worse, so memorable, or at least so baffling. Let's kick things off with that unforgettable moment where Chris is up for his book report on Tom Sawyer. He's nervous, you can see it, he's got his little speech prepared, and then disaster strikes. He gets what the show calls full mast, which is just a polite way of saying he gets a serious, very public erection. The absolute horror on his face, the stunned silence from the class, and then, of course, the immediate rush to judgment and teasing. It's the kind of cringe humor that Family Guy thrives on, and it's effective in its sheer, unadulterated awkwardness. The visual of him trying to subtly cover himself while the teacher calls him up is just painfully relatable for anyone who's ever had a mortifying moment in school. And then, instead of a report on Tom Sawyer, he starts singing a Rush song. A Rush song, a modern-day warrior, mean stride. It's so out of left field, so completely unexpected, that it's almost brilliant in its stupidity. You have to wonder if the writers just spun a wheel of random cultural references to see what would stick. Brian's reaction, calling it a public wood show, is perfectly in character, a mix of exasperation and a sort of detached amusement. Lois's response, wanting to hear more about her son's situation, before Peter whisks himself and his friends off to miniature golf, is another classic Family Guy family dynamic. Peter's eagerness to escape any real parental responsibility is a running gag, and here it's taken to an extreme. He's so ready to ditch his family and play golf that he doesn't even register the severity of Chris's public humiliation. This moment sets up the entire episode's premise. It's the catalyst for Chris's distress and the eventual use of the time machine. It's a perfect example of how Family Guy takes a seemingly simple, awkward situation and escalates it into a full-blown, reality-bending disaster. What's fascinating is how the show uses this moment not just for a cheap laugh, but as the starting point for a plot about escapism and the desire to undo mistakes. It's a testament to their ability to find the absurd in the mundane, even if it means invoking the spectral presence of Canadian prog rock. This is where the show really flexes its narrative muscles, in a way. They take a deeply embarrassing, highly specific teenage problem and decide the only solution is temporal displacement. You can't help but admire the sheer audacity of that choice. It's the kind of decision that makes you question your own sanity, and then the sanity of the people who wrote it. But that's Family Guy for you. It's a show that consistently dares to go to the most ridiculous places, and this book report debacle is just the entry point into that wonderfully weird world. The sheer panic on Chris's face is the anchor, and everything else is just a glorious, unhinged storm of chaos that follows. Next up, we have the legendary Taco Tuesday debate. This is Joe Swanson at his finest, or perhaps his most baffling. He's out with Peter and the guys, presumably at the golf course, and he's suddenly launching into this passionate, albeit completely illogical, defense of Taco Tuesday. He's comparing it to the inability of Congress to pass Medicare reform. Yes, you heard that right. Tacos versus healthcare. Joe's logic here is something else. He's framing it as a political issue, a sign of societal priorities gone awry. Peter, ever the voice of reason when it suits him, calls him out on it, saying the two things are unrelated. But Joe doubles down, accusing Peter of being a shill for Big Taco. It's the kind of absurd, nonsensical dialogue that Family Guy excels at. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to be funny because it's so utterly ridiculous. You can see the writers just having a field day with this. They're poking fun at political discourse, at the way people latch on to seemingly minor issues while ignoring larger ones, and at the sheer idiocy of some characters' arguments. This scene is a microcosm of Family Guy's broader satirical approach. They take everyday observations, twist them into bizarre pronouncements, and hold them up for ridicule. Joe's fixation on Taco Tuesday as a political failure is a perfect example. It's so specific, so niche, that it becomes hilarious. And Peter's reaction, the eye roll and the dismissal, is how most viewers probably feel. It's a moment that showcases the show's ability to take a simple premise, guys playing golf, and inject it with this surreal, almost profound silliness. It's the kind of dialogue that makes you laugh out loud, not because it's a clever observation, but because it's just so bizarrely unexpected. You can almost picture the writer's room. Okay, how can we make Joe Swanson even weirder? Let's have him connect tacos to national policy. And thus, a masterpiece of non-sequitur comedy is born. It's a testament to the show's longevity that they can still pull off these kinds of character-driven, off-the-wall conversations that feel both familiar and completely fresh. It highlights Joe's unique brand of oblivious earnestness, the kind that makes him a lovable, albeit slightly unhinged, part of the Griffin ensemble. And that accusation of Peter being a shill for Big Taco, pure gold. It's the kind of petty, irrational accusation that fuels so much of the show's humor. It's not about the politics, it's about Joe's character and his completely warped view of the world. Then we get to the meat of the time travel plot. Chris, overwhelmed by the teasing about his incident, decides he can't take it anymore and plans to run away. Brian, ever the pragmatist, suggests a solution that involves Stewie's time machine. This is where the episode really kicks into high gear. Brian explains the plan. They'll go back to this morning and give Chris a do-over for his book report. Chris is ecstatic, seeing this as his only way out. The dialogue around the time machine is classic Stewie, all scientific jargon and condescending explanations. The mention of Legos as Stewie's building foundation is a nice touch, a nod to his genius starting from humble beginnings. And then, the twist. To use the time machine, they need a secondary voice password. This is where the writers decided to have some serious fun. They throw out a rapid-fire montage of celebrity names, pop culture references, and random words as password attempts. We hear Zac Efron, Susan Lucci, Dora, Diego, Gold's Gym, Mykonos, and then this explosion of enthusiastic, almost cult-like pronouncements from what sounds like a group of superfans. Fabulous! Fab! Totally fab! Go, bitch! Whatever, bitch! Love you, bitch! Yes, queen! Yas, queen! Yas, queen! It's utterly chaotic and hilarious. It perfectly encapsulates the fan frenzy surrounding certain celebrities and trends. The juxtaposition of this intense fan worship with the serious life or death stakes of the time machine password is pure Family Guy. It's this moment where the show leans into its meta-commentary on pop culture itself. They're not just referencing things, they're satirizing how people reference and obsess over things. The fact that the password ends up being this nonsensical outpouring of fan adoration is the perfect punchline. It's a brilliant way to show that even the most advanced technology can be undone by the silliness of human emotions and obsessions. And the idea that Stewie, the genius inventor, would have a password system that relies on this kind of input is a stroke of comedic genius. It humanizes him in a way by showing his own bizarre, perhaps even slightly insecure, requirements for using his inventions. This sequence is a masterclass in comedic escalation. They start with a simple problem, a password, and then they spiral into this glorious, over-the-top explosion of pop culture madness. It's the kind of scene that makes you rewind just to catch all the fleeting references and the sheer, unadulterated energy of it all. It's a testament to the show's writers that they can consistently pull off these moments of pure, unbridled comedic chaos and still manage to tie them back, however loosely, to the main plot. It's the chaos that makes Family Guy, well, Family Guy. Now let's talk about the scratcher scene. Peter, Quagmire, and Joe are all pooling their money to buy lottery scratchers. This is a classic trio doing classic things, and it's always a good time when they get together to engage in some low-stakes vice. The names they draw are a goldmine of celebrity satire. Peter pulls out Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, and Scott Disick, the ultimate reality TV royalty. Quagmire goes for dignity dollars and pulls Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, followed by Jesse Smollett. This is a bold move, and knowing Quagmire, probably not intended to be respectful. Then Joe gets bald bucks and lands on Piven, Travolta, and Cage. Nicolas Cage, of course, is the king of unpredictable performances and bizarre career choices, so him appearing on a scratcher ticket feels perfectly fitting. The scene is funny because of the unexpected combinations and the commentary on celebrity culture. It's also a stark reminder of how Family Guy uses pop culture figures for comedic effect, often in ways that are a little edgy or even offensive. The win of $123, split three ways, is almost beside the point. The real joke is in the names and the implications. The fact that Joe, a cop, is drawing Jesse Smollett, and Quagmire, a notoriously sleazy character, is drawing civil rights leaders is meant to be provocative and funny in that Family Guy way. It's the kind of humor that pushes boundaries and makes you wonder if you should be laughing, but you do. The scene perfectly captures the casual gambling, the idle chatter, and the slightly dubious moral compass of these characters. It's a snapshot of their lives, always looking for a quick win, a moment of excitement, and a chance to mock the world around them. The contrast between the high-profile celebrities and the gritty reality of scratchers is hilarious. It's the kind of moment that, while not advancing the plot in any significant way, provides character insight and serves up a potent dose of satirical humor. It's the mundane activities of these characters that often lead to the most unexpected comedic gems. And the sheer randomness of who ends up on which ticket is part of the fun. It's a joke about how we often associate certain people with luck or bad luck or just general, well, them. And who better to put on a lottery ticket than people who've already lived lives of such public scrutiny and unpredictable outcomes? It's the ultimate gamble, placing your hopes on the faces of the famous, and Family Guy is more than happy to point out how absurd that is. The horoscope scroll is a brilliant, albeit brief, moment of foreshadowing disguised as a gag. Joe, having spent his meager winnings on a horoscope, reads out a particularly bizarre and oddly specific prediction. Be sure to gamble today with your handicapped, horny, and black friend. This is clearly a setup for something, and the ambiguity of who the friend is only adds to the humor and the creeping sense of unease. Who is the handicapped, horny, and black friend? Is it Joe himself? Is it someone else in the group? Is it a commentary on how people categorize their friends? The line is so outlandish that it immediately stands out. And then Joe dismisses it as mumbo-jumbo. Little does he know that mumbo-jumbo is about to come crashing down on him. The follow-up, where he's in a meeting and suddenly has to clean out his desk after the horoscope's second prediction about closing search tabs before a work presentation comes true, is the punchline. It's a classic example of Family Guy's penchant for making the absurdly specific incredibly impactful. The fact that a random, cheap horoscope scroll can predict workplace disaster is hilarious. It's a jab at fortune-telling, at superstition, and at the unpredictable nature of life. But it's also setting up the consequence of Joe's actions. He's part of the group that's about to mess with time, and the universe, or at least the writers, are making sure everyone gets their comeuppance. This moment is a great example of how the show can weave in seemingly minor gags that have significant plot implications later on. It's a subtle nod to the chaos that is about to unfold, and it's delivered with such deadpan absurdity that you might miss its importance on the first watch. It's a reminder that in the Family Guy universe, even the most ridiculous predictions can hold a kernel of truth, especially when it comes to the character's own bad decisions. And the fact that it's Joe, the one seemingly most concerned with rules and order, who is undone by a horny horoscope? Priceless. It's the universe having a good laugh at his expense. Okay, so Stewie's time machine password. We heard the initial fan frenzy, but then they're forced to input a secondary password. This is where it gets truly wild. They're in a panic, facing self-destruct. Brian is trying to help, but he's clearly out of his depth. Then Stewie comes in with another gem, Mykonos. What is Mykonos? It's a Greek island, a popular vacation spot. Why would that be a password?
The implication is that it's another pop culture reference, perhaps something personal to Stewie or a shared memory. It's this constant barrage of references that defines the show. Then, there's this whole sequence of highly enthusiastic, borderline fanatical pronouncements. Oh, I know, fabulous, fab, totally fab, go bitch, whatever bitch, love you bitch, yes queen, yes queen, yes queen! It's like a fever dream of internet slang and enthusiastic affirmations. The delivery is key here, this unhinged, almost desperate energy. It's so over the top that it becomes hilarious. It's a commentary on the way people communicate online, the performative positivity, the use of slang, and the sheer overwhelming volume of fan culture. The fact that this chaos is the key to preventing a time machine from exploding is a stroke of genius. It's the show saying that sometimes the most important things in life aren't logical or rational, but tied to these moments of shared, emotional, and often bizarre connection. It's the ultimate expression of it's not that serious, but it is serious because it's about preventing a time machine from self-destructing. The contrast between the impending doom and the almost manic joy of the password attempts is the core of the comedy. It's a perfect encapsulation of modern internet culture, where intense emotions and trivial references can coexist in the most dramatic situations. It's the kind of scene that leaves you both laughing and questioning the sanity of the world we live in. And the fact that they eventually get it right, that the chaos somehow leads to the solution, is the Family Guy way. It's not about competence, it's about stumbling your way through to success, often with the help of a nonsensical pop culture reference. The moment where they arrive in the past and Chris is amazed by how small the tree is and how old the cars look is a classic time travel trope executed with typical Family Guy flair. It's Brian's dry explanation about very small differences that sells it. But then the confusion. Chris thought they were going to his school, but they ended up at their house. This is Brian's screw-up, of course, because he plugged in the address on his collar. It's a simple mistake with potentially massive consequences. This is where the betting on sports comes in. Brian realizes they have a golden opportunity. They know the outcomes of games. This is where the ethical quandaries of time travel, which Family Guy usually just glosses over, briefly appear.
Chris immediately jumps on board, seeing it as a way to get rich and maybe even solve his problems. The WNBA mention is a bit of a modern touch, bringing in contemporary sports. The confusion about Caitlin Clark highlights the show's attempt to stay relevant, even if the characters themselves are clueless. The scene brilliantly captures the allure of time travel, the power it grants, the temptations it presents.
It's not just about fixing mistakes. It's about exploiting the knowledge of the future. And the fact that Brian, the seemingly responsible one, is the one who causes the initial mistake, only to then embrace the opportunity for financial gain, is classic character work. It's this slippery slope of unintended consequences that makes the time travel plot so compelling, even when it's filled with ridiculous jokes. The humor comes from the characters' reactions to this newfound power and their immediate inclination to use it for personal gain. It's a dark reflection of human nature, packaged in a zany cartoon. The idea of them using this opportunity to bet on a WNBA game, a sport that's not exactly the pinnacle of mainstream betting, adds another layer of absurdity. It's the kind of niche detail that makes the scene feel more grounded in a weird, specific way. It's not just about winning the lottery. It's about the small, often overlooked opportunities that time travel could present. And the fact that they are so eager to capitalize on it, without a second thought about the ramifications, is precisely why we watch these characters. They are flawed, they are greedy, and they are endlessly entertaining in their pursuit of the quick fix. The scene where Cleveland, now looking significantly skinnier, explains he bought $41 worth of Ozempic is a fantastic, albeit brief, moment of social commentary. He's clearly trying to emulate Jonah Hill, who famously lost a lot of weight. Cleveland's comment about Donna thinking he looks like skinny Jonah Hill and his own eagerness to become an aggressively unstable relationship partner are sharp observations about celebrity culture, weight loss trends, and the sometimes unhealthy obsessions that come with them. It's a quick jab at the cultural obsession with appearance and the sometimes extreme measures people take to achieve a certain look. The fact that he spent his scratcher winnings on Ozempic is a very current and specific reference. It's a great example of Family Guy's ability to tap into contemporary issues and anxieties, even if it's just for a fleeting gag. The humor comes from the sheer absurdity of it all, spending lottery money on a prescription drug to look like a celebrity who himself has undergone a dramatic transformation. It's a layered joke that works on multiple levels. It's funny on the surface because of the visual of a skinnier Cleveland and his dramatic pronouncements, but it's also a subtle commentary on the pressures of fame, the constant scrutiny of celebrity bodies, and the sometimes unintended consequences of trying to emulate those ideals. And the aggressively unstable relationship partner line, that's pure Cleveland, leaning into his own eccentricities. It's a moment that, while not central to the plot, adds a lot of flavor and contemporary relevance to the episode. It shows the writers are paying attention to what's happening in the real world and can weave it into their chaotic narrative. It's a reminder that Family Guy, for all its absurdity, can also be surprisingly topical. It's these small, character-driven moments that often land the hardest. They're not just relying on shock value, they're making smart, albeit often dark, observations about our culture. The belt gag, where Peter turns his scratcher winnings into a new belt from TJ Maxx, is another classic Peter Griffin moment. He doesn't just buy a nice belt, he buys one that's strewn on the floor because it was on sale. This is peak Peter, finding the cheapest, most absurd way to acquire something. The explanation that TJ Maxx was having a sale on everything that's strewn on the floor is so perfectly nonsensical. It's the kind of detail that makes you chuckle because it's so utterly stupid. It's also a jab at consumer culture and the way people will buy anything if it's on sale. Peter's excitement over this floor-strewn belt is the cherry on top. It's not about the quality or the style, it's about the deal. This is the kind of moment that reminds you why Peter is such a beloved character, despite his many flaws. His simple-minded joy and the ridiculous is infectious, and the visual of him proudly wearing a belt that was presumably previously on the floor of a TJ Maxx is just peak comedy. It's the kind of joke that relies on the audience's imagination to fill in the blanks, picturing the sale, the chaos, and Peter's triumphant acquisition. It's the mundane made hilarious through Peter's unique perspective. It's the epitome of lowbrow humor done right. It's not trying to be sophisticated, it's just aiming for a laugh, and it achieves it with flying colors.
The fact that this is the result of his big winnings from scratchers just adds to the irony. He wins a bit of money and immediately uses it to buy something that sounds like it was salvaged from a dumpster. That's Peter for you, always finding the most unconventional path to satisfaction. It's a visual gag that encapsulates his entire character, impulsive, slightly trashy, and utterly unselfconscious.
The scene where Chris has to head off his past self to give the book report is where the time travel logic gets really convoluted, which is exactly how we like it. Brian tells Chris to get in there and make it the flaccidest report of your life. This is a callback to the original incident, and it's delivered with such deadpan seriousness by Brian that it's hilarious. Chris agrees, promising not to let him down. The future Chris, who successfully gave the report without embarrassment, is referred to as Flaccid Chris, while the original Chris, the one who ran away in humiliation, is referred to as Turgid Chris. It's a clever linguistic play, using euphemisms for Chris's situation to describe the two versions of him. The humor comes from the crude terminology and the sheer seriousness with which they're treating this. And then Chris walks into the classroom and delivers the shortest, most anticlimactic book report in history. "Hello, peers. This is my report on the book Tom Sawyer. The cover shows a kid painting a fence, and inside it is paper, which is made from trees. The end." That's it. No analysis, no summary, just a literal description of the book's physical properties. The teacher's response, "Chris, I may have to fail you," is a massive understatement. The fact that this incredibly lazy report is considered a success because it avoids the original embarrassment is the joke. It's a critique of the education system, perhaps, or just a reflection of how low the bar can be set when avoiding humiliation is the primary goal. This moment showcases Family Guy's ability to take a simple premise and twist it into something unexpectedly profound, albeit in a very crude way. It's the idea that sometimes doing the absolute minimum is the best you can do, and in the world of Family Guy, that's often a win. It's a funny commentary on the pressure to perform, and how sometimes just getting through it is enough. And the fact that Flaccid Chris is the successful version, while Turgid Chris is the one who ran away, is a brilliant bit of wordplay that perfectly encapsulates the episode's central conflict and resolution.
The popcorn shrimp celebration is a classic Peter move. He sees the guys celebrating their scratcher winnings and immediately wants in, despite not being part of the original group. Quagmire, ever the gentleman, clarifies that the shrimp is exclusively for winners. Peter, undeterred, starts devising a ridiculous plan to get some shrimp, involving suction cups, a police system, carabiners, rope, a ski mask, and, of course, a bat. This is the peak of Peter's absurdity. It's not enough for him to just ask for some, he has to engineer an elaborate heist. This sequence is pure physical comedy and character-driven silliness. The visual of Peter attempting to wrap hell into the party to steal shrimp is hilarious. It's the epitome of his, if at first you don't succeed, try a more elaborate and dangerous plan mentality. The bat is the final, random, and utterly unnecessary addition, adding another layer of absurdity to his scheme. It's a testament to how well the writers understand Peter's character that they can create such intricate and ridiculous scenarios for him. This moment highlights his entitlement, his impulsiveness, and his complete lack of self-awareness. He truly believes this elaborate plan is a reasonable course of action. And the fact that he's doing it for popcorn shrimp makes it even funnier. It's the disproportionate effort for a relatively minor reward that defines Peter's genius. It's the kind of scene that makes you laugh out loud at the sheer audacity of it all. It's a visual gag that's as stupid as it is brilliant, and it perfectly encapsulates Peter's unwavering commitment to getting what he wants, no matter how ridiculous the method. The fact that he's willing to risk life and limb, or at least considerable public embarrassment for a few shrimp, is the comedic heart of the scene. It's a reminder that in the world of Family Guy, the pursuit of simple pleasures can lead to the most outlandish adventures. Now, let's talk about the real consequence of messing with time, Meg's burn marks. Brian and Chris, in their quest to fix Chris's book report, inadvertently caused a laboratory explosion that scarred Meg's face. This is the dark turn the episode takes. The casual way they discuss it, we didn't even see Meg in the past, is chilling. Stewie's explanation is where the show gets really interesting. He breaks down the butterfly effect, explaining how a slight turn of Meg's head, caused by the distraction of Chris's original, embarrassing report, saved her from the full brunt of the explosion. But in the new timeline, where Chris's report was deliberately flaccid, the lack of distraction meant Meg was directly in the line of fire. The word brunt being called weird and dumb by Stewie is a classic Stewieism, his intellectual arrogance clashing with his childlike curiosity. This is the moment where the show reminds us that these time travel shenanigans have real, often tragic consequences. It's not just about correcting awkward social situations, it's about life and death. The guilt on Brian and Chris's faces is palpable. They realize they've done something terrible, something far worse than Chris's original embarrassment. This scene is crucial because it raises the stakes.
It transforms the episode from a simple comedy about embarrassment into a story with genuine emotional weight, even if it's delivered in a Family Guy way. The image of Meg, now with burned skin, eating popsicles and ice cream sandwiches because that's all she can eat, is heartbreaking. It's a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable nature of cause and effect. The show is essentially saying, see, this is what happens when you mess with things you don't understand. And the fact that the solution to this catastrophe is also time travel, creating yet another potential paradox, is classic Family Guy. It's a loop of unintended consequences, and the characters are trapped in it. Peter's late-night car escapades are a fantastic character moment and a masterclass in suspicious behavior. Lois catches him in the car, and his immediate panicked lie about having an affair with Sandy Shoes is so transparently fake that it's hilarious. The description of him just looking at stuff in the car and making up lies perfectly captures his erratic nature. Lois, bless her heart, is initially concerned, but then she's faced with the bizarre collection of items. The speedometer, the height chart sticker, it all points to something deeply strange. Peter's arrest for shrinking is the punchline that lands with a thud. It's a ridiculous crime, and the way he's caught, by checking his height against a door jam sticker, is the epitome of an embarrassing, low-stakes arrest. The police's response, "We're going to measure again at the jail, though, right?" adds another layer of absurdity. It's the mundane reality of law enforcement meeting Peter's surreal problems. This whole sequence is a brilliant example of how Family Guy can take a simple character trait, Peter's odd behavior, and turn it into an entire subplot.
It's not just a random gag, it's a consequence of Peter's general chaotic existence. The implication is that his shenanigans are finally catching up to him in a way that's both ridiculous and somehow fitting. It's a moment that's both funny and a little sad, seeing Peter caught in such a bizarre predicament, a victim of his own peculiar brand of self-sabotage. The fact that the arrest is specifically for shrinking is a joke that plays on his overall lack of physical presence and his general insignificance, contrasted with his loud personality. It's a great way to end the episode's exploration of consequences, even if it's just Peter's personal, absurd ones. Alright, so back to the core mission, saving Meg's face. Stewie, Brian, and Chris are back at the scene of the crime, the day of the book report. Stewie lays out the plan with his usual scientific precision, albeit mixed with a healthy dose of his typical condescension. They need to lock up the Chris who successfully gave his report without incident, Flaccid Chris. This is the one who delivered the incredibly brief, passable report. Then they need to restore the laughter that will distract Meg by releasing the original Chris from the custodial closet. This is Turgid Chris, the one who had the embarrassing outburst. The whole Flaccid Chris and Turgid Chris labeling is a fantastic callback and a perfect encapsulation of the episode's central conflict. Chris's reaction, "Ew, ew, gross, but yes," is perfectly him. He's disgusted by the terminology but willing to go along with it because it's the only way to fix things. The visual of them confronting the two Chris's, the successful, flaccid one and the original, embarrassed, turgid one, is pure comedic gold. It's a confrontation with oneself, a temporal paradox made manifest. Stewie's warning about "your crudeness is a whole thing" is also a great touch. Stewie's mild disapproval of Chris's lack of sophistication. And then, just as they're about to enact the plan, Stewie's nemesis, Peter, shows up. Peter, completely oblivious, bursts in with his own insane scheme to get popcorn shrimp. This is the ultimate Family Guy moment. Just when you think things are getting serious, Peter comes in and derails everything with his own selfish, nonsensical agenda. Stewie's despair, "Ah, crap, this can't be good," is the perfect reaction. It's the moment where the plan, and potentially the timeline itself, is thrown into utter disarray by Peter's sheer, unadulterated idiocy. It's a brilliant way to punctuate the stakes of their mission and highlight the constant, insurmountable obstacle that is Peter Griffin. It's the chaos that defines their universe, and Peter is its ultimate architect. So what are we to make of this episode? It's a classic Family Guy mix of the utterly ridiculous and the surprisingly topical, all wrapped up in a plot that makes about as much sense as a screen door on a submarine. We saw Chris Griffin's world implode thanks to a particularly unfortunate case of adolescent biology during a book report. Then, because this is Family Guy, the only logical solution was to enlist a time machine built by a genius toddler. We got Joe Swanson's bizarre political commentary on tacos, Peter Griffin's ill-fated attempts at thievery for shrimp, and some genuinely unsettling consequences for poor Meg. It's an episode that's firing on all cylinders, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes just randomly. It's the kind of show that can take a deeply embarrassing social faux pas and spiral it into a discussion about the butterfly effect and the ethical quandaries of time travel, all while making jokes about celebrity names and floor sale belts. If you're looking for a show that consistently throws everything at the wall to see what sticks, you've come to the right place. This episode embodies that philosophy.